Chapter 13. Massacring Lizardmen Villages. Please, give reviews people. Lioro wasted no time and advanced toward the next Lizardman village. The sun still hung in the sky, its descent slow but steady. Fang slithered beside him, keeping his head low, while Hamsuk followed in silence, already accustomed to the destruction left in Lioro's wake. Which village is closest? Lioro asked. Fang quickly responded, eager to prove his usefulness. Master, according to the Lizardmen, the nearest one should be the Green Claw tribe. Lioro nodded. Lead the way. Green Claw tribe. The Green Claw tribe was larger than the Dragon Tusk tribe, numbering a little over 300 members. They lived in the swampy outskirts of the lake, where the terrain favored them, making it difficult for outsiders to attack. But against Lioro, it didn't matter. Shoot. A rain of arrows shot toward Lioro, only to be stopped midair by Infinity. The next moment, hollow purple carved through them, obliterating the attackers in an instant. Panic spread as their strongest warriors were erased like dust in the wind. The chieftain, Shisaryu Shasha, a muscular lizardman with emerald scales, bared his fangs. Retreat. Split into groups. Raising his hand, he cast a spell toward the bleeding lizardmen. Light healing. A panel appeared before Lioro. The first-tier magic, light healing, has been discovered. It requires a basic cleric profession in a level requirement of 1 to 7. The current conditions are not met. Genius cleric profession has been activated. Transformation successful. The learning conditions are met. Do you want to consume 1 skill point to learn it? Healing magic. Lioro said in his mind, yes. Learned magic, light healing. 1 skill point spent. He pointed toward a lizardman missing an arm. Light healing. The bleeding slowed for a moment before starting again. It's quite weak. Disappointed, Lioro sent another hollow purple, disintegrating the injured lizardman. Experience gained, 842. Why? Human. Shisaryu Shasha lunged at Lioro, wielding a massive sword. Before the attack could connect, a green tail lashed out, smashing the chieftain's head in one blow. How was it, master? Am I not good? Hamsuk grinned proudly. Lioro lightly flicked his nose. Ouch. Master, why? Don't interrupt. Your job is to keep them from running, not killing them. Oh okay. Hamsuk rubbed his nose, teary-eyed. Lioro turned back to the battlefield, noticing a lizardman rushing at him wielding an icy weapon. Isn't he the main character of the Lizardmen arc Zaryusu something? The one who does it with the albino lizard. Zaryusu barely dodged one hollow purple, charging straight at him within recklessness. Did he think I can only create one? Lioro raised his hand, forming another hollow purple. Zaryusu stopped and stared at hollow purple in fear. Tightly gripping his ice weapon, he quickly waved it at Lioro and shouted. Icy burst. A wave of ice spread toward Lioro, trying to envelop him. But the next moment a purple light burst out, eliminating the ice from existence. A second later, it hit Zaryusu, erasing his upper body. Lioro walked out from the frost cloud and picked up the fallen weapon. Item, Frost Pain. Type, Magical Item, Weapon. Level, Intermediate 1425. Restrictions, Warrior Job. Effects, Slashing Attributes, Cold Air Attributes. Physical Attack plus 5-2. Passive, Additional Cold Air Damage. Active, Icy Burst, releases a large amount of ice, freezing objects in front 3 per day. Introduction, a unique weapon made of special ice, capable of freezing anything it touches. It was a pretty good weapon, definitely better than the steel sword he uses. Putting it inside his prop box, Lioro looked at the remaining warriors who attempted to flee. Controlling hollow purple, he wiped them out in one go. Green Claw tribe was destroyed. Small Fang tribe. The Small Fang tribe was the weakest, numbering only 150 lizardmen. Lioro wasted no time. A single hollow purple swept through, erasing dozens instantly. As the spell swept through the village, dozens of lizardmen perished instantly, their bodies vanishing before they even had the chance to scream. Some lizardmen attempted to retaliate with crude weapons and weak magic, but none of it even came close to harming Lioro. But suddenly, Lioro blinked his eyes in confusion. Through 6 eyes he saw an abnormal flow of mana, one he had never seen before, gathering around a druid lizardman at the back. Thinking it might be some higher-tiered magic, Lioro stopped hollow purple and waited for the druid lizardmen to finish. It didn't take long. The lizardman finished reciting his spell before pointing towards Lioro and shouting. Tier 1 magic. Shock. A small spark shot from his hand. Only Tier 1. Lioro sighed in disappointment. But then, the red pattern beneath the druid glowed, altering the spell. The tiny spark transformed into a full-fledged lightning bolt, firing at Lioro with shocking speed. Of course, Infinity blocked it effortlessly. A third-tier magic, lightning, has been discovered. It requires a magician profession and a level requirement of 15 to 21. The current conditions are not met. Lioro ignored the message and stared at the druid lizardman with glowing eyes. Using his legs, he ran straight towards him. Watch out! A lizardman holding a club shouted as he covered for the druid and quickly swung his weapon at Lioro, but it was blocked by Infinity. Seeing that Lioro was perfectly fine, the lizardman hurriedly swung the club multiple times. Unfortunately, it all ended up in failure. In horror, the lizardman fell on his back, staring at Lioro with terrified eyes. Lioro didn't even look at the fallen lizardman, his gaze focused on the trembling druid. Looking down at the blood-colored array on the ground, Lioro asked. Tell me. What did you just do? The druid hesitated before answering. This is the treasure of our small Fang tribe, a magic amplifier. Lioro's eyes gleamed. Not just amplification, it upgrades spells. Lioro complained in his mind. It seems the lizardman himself didn't know much either. Maybe the treasures of the lizardmen were actually equipment and magic from previous players who came to the new world. Suppressing his doubts, Lioro said. Teach me. This. The druid lizardman clenched his fists and silently glanced at his clansmen. Seeing that less than half of them were alive, he said in a pleading voice. Strong one, I will teach you our treasure, but in exchange please let my people go. Okay. He couldn't even finish before Lioro agreed. The druid lizardman was stunned, he couldn't believe the human agreed so easily. Seeing the doubtful look on the lizardman's face, Lioro quickly said. If you will teach me your magic, then I will let all of you go. The surrounding lizardmen suddenly raised their heads and stared at the druid lizardman with hopeful eyes. The druid lizardman nodded at his clansmen before opening his mouth and saying. Powerful human, I hope you will keep your word. The magic array is drawn like this. Under Lioro's burning gaze, the lizardman started drawing another magic pattern on the ground, using his own blood as ink. In no time the magic pattern was complete. And a new panel appeared before his eyes. The skill, Magic Upgrade, has been discovered. It requires the profession, Magic Chanter. The current conditions are not met. Genius Magic Chanter activated. Transformation successful. Learn skill. Yes. Skill, Magic Upgrade. Cost, 50 megapixels. Effect, enhances magic beyond its tier. Plus 1 tier, 2x mana cost cannot exceed tier 10. Plus 2 tiers, 3x mana cost cannot exceed tier 10. Lioro stared at the screen in silence. This type of magic would be useless for a player in Yggdrasil, since in the game you can directly learn any magic or skill you want from the available list by sending skill points. As long as your level and class match, you can easily learn the corresponding spells. That is why spending twice or thrice the mana just to cast a spell of the higher tier will not be considered an ideal choice. After all, mana was limited, and just increasing a single tier for the spell was not very productive or useful. But the story was completely different for Lioro, who was unable to learn spells from the player list. The only way he had to learn magic was by either seeing others perform it or by touching a magic item which has been enchanted with a spell. That is why it was extremely difficult for him to acquire high-tiered magic, since most humans were only able to use up to tier 3 magic at best. Heck, tier 6 is considered the domain of gods if he remembered. But with Magic Upgrade, he can increase the level of magic, learn the upgraded magic using skill points, and then repeat the process until he reaches the highest tier 10. This can totally work. Plus, with the help of a genius class, he can master tier 10 magic of multiple different professions. Lioro clenched his fist in excitement. He didn't know what to say. It's been less than 3 days since he came to this world. Hell, he won't become a god by the end of the 7th day, will he? Lioro smiled lightly. Satisfied, he turned to the druid. You can go. Before the lizardmen could be happy, Lioro suddenly jumped on the back of Hamsuk and quickly went away with Fang. The lizardmen stood in silence, dumbly staring at his rapidly diminishing figure. After leaving the small Fang lizardmen tribe, Lioro hurriedly made his way towards the next two. Red Eye Tribe. Unlike the previous two, the Red Eye Tribe was more intelligent. They specialized in magic, and their leader, a shaman adorned in animal bones, immediately recognized Liero's overwhelming power. We cannot fight him. The Red Eye chieftain shouted. Everyone, run. Lioro directly blasted them with a hollow purple. He wanted to quickly kill the lizardmen and go home after learning his new magic. Under his unrelenting attacks, the Red Eye Tribe was quickly flattened. Razor Tail Tribe. The Razor Tail Tribe was the strongest and possessed the legendary white dragon bone armor. Their chieftain, clad in the bone armor, stepped forward, gripping a heavy club. Human. Face me in battle. Lioro stared at him. No. He raised a hand. Dark Wave. A dome of energy spread outward, instantly paralyzing all enemies. Even Fang and Hamsuk collapsed, clutching their heads. Lioro approached the immobilized chieftain. Placing his sword between the armor's gaps, he infused it with cursed energy. Career skill, Death Mark, activated. The chieftain failed the instant death check and instantly died. Lioro removed the armor and examined its stats. Item, White Dragon Bone Armor. Type, Magical Item, Armor. Level, Intermediate 1530. Restrictions, Warrior Job. Effects, Medium Defense, Cold Resistance, Magic Protection. Defense plus 7-5. Intelligence minus 20. Passive, 30% cold resistance to tier 5 and below spells. Passive, 15% magic damage reduction. Passive, auto repairs minor damage. Introduction, a legendary armor forged from an ancient frost dragon, offering unparalleled resistance to cold and magic attacks. Satisfied, Lioro wiped out the rest of the tribe with hollow purple. Razor Tail Tribe destroyed. Finally, after he was done, Lioro looked at Hamsuk and Fang who were still struggling from the power of his active skill, Dark Wave. Walking up to Hamsuk, he placed a hand on his body and retracted the curse energy which has invaded him, taking away the negative status effect. Then he did the same for Fang. After the two of them came to their senses, they looked at Lioro with newfound fear and awe. Let's go back to Yggdrasil. This little trip of his proved to be more fruitful than he initially thought, especially the magic upgrade which he couldn't wait to try. Before leaving, Lioro stopped and looked at Fang. Unlike Hamsuk, the demon Naga's appearance is quite unsightly. He couldn't bring Fang with him to the city, it would cause trouble because of his demonic appearance. So should he just kill him? A sense of danger suddenly hit Fang, making him shiver in fear. Forget it, I even named him. Lioro shook his head before saying to Fang. You are now the sole leader of the great forest of Tob, manage the place well and I will call you when I need you. Placing a hand on Hamsuke's head, Lioro disappeared with Hamsuk, leaving behind the stunned Fang. Lioro and Hamsuke's figure suddenly appeared on the boundary of the great forest of Tob, not far from Yggdrasil. Let's go. Sitting on top of Hamsuk, Lioro pointed towards the city gate in the distance. That master, I am not feeling so well. Hamsuk said as he grabbed his mouth in a puking gesture. It seems he was still suffering from the aftereffects of Dark Wave. Lioro took out a potion from his inventory and poured it inside Hamsuke's mouth, making him feel a little relieved. Then they made their way towards the city gate. 7 comments 0 vote. Pissed. Download the app for additional rewards. More events, more perks. Winning you more free perks. Download now. nkcthereaper. Download app now. Chapter 14, Max Valkyrie. The guards stared in vigilance as Lioro and Hamsuk approached the gate of Yggdrasil. If not for Lioro, a human who was sitting on top of Hamsuk, the guards would have already launched an attack. Neeg. Horses belonging to merchants shouted in fear as Hamsuk stood behind them. Everyone in front of the line stared back at Lioro and Hamsuk with curiosity and a little fear in their eyes. As Lioro was waiting for his turn, a soldier came running from the city gate, stopping some distance away from Hamsuk and asking Lioro in a hesitant voice while pointing at Hamsuk. Excuse me, sir. Is this your magic beast? Yes, it is there a problem? Lioro replied. The soldier gulped loudly before pointing towards the city gate. Please go ahead and register your magic beast. The line suddenly separated, a passage opened up for him. Riding on Hamsuk, Lioro nodded at the guard before making their way towards the city gate. The merchants and soldiers on the side kept looking at Hamsuk with reverent eyes. The soldier at the gate hurriedly took out some documents and began filling them up before asking Lioro in a nervous voice. Sir, what is the name of the magic beast? Before Lioro could say anything, Hamsuk opened his mouth and declared in a proud tone. My name is Hamsuk. I am the wise king of the forest. Gosu. It spoke. The wise king of the forest. One of the three rulers of the forest of Tob. A heated discussion started up among the crowd. Seeing the scene, the people on the inside of the wall couldn't but come closer to look at the sudden ruckus. And as soon as they saw Hamsuke's mighty appearance, they couldn't help but cry out in shock and disbelief. After getting the documents, Lioro controlled Hamsuk to make his way to his house. The gathered crowd stared at his diminishing figure in fear and awe. Since it was nighttime, not many people were walking on the road, allowing Lioro to arrive at his home without creating a big scene. Go and say at the backyard. Although unwilling, Hamsuk followed his order and quietly went to the back of the house. Fortunately, there was enough space for Hamsuk to stay back there, or else he would have needed to find a new place tomorrow. Entering the house, Lioro locked the door and entered the basement. Lighting up the wall lamp, he sat down on the ground and looked at his experience points. Experience gained, 436,566 7,000. 400,000 plus experience. A crazy number he accumulated after destroying 10 Golban villages, 8 Kobold villages, 120 trolls, and 5 Lizardmen villages. He single-handedly exterminated 90% of the monsters living in the west part of the Great Forest of Tob. Smiling in excitement, Lioro first upgraded Valkyrie to max level. Valkyrie 1 LV to Valkyrie 5 LV. Experience gained, 402,566 20,000. All of his attributes increased by a major amount. And a new screen appeared before his eyes. Additional weapon expertise activated. Choose expertise. Additional weapon expertise. 1. Strike, increases physical damage from strikes by 20% and increases critical strike chance by 10%. 2. Slash, increases physical damage of slash by 20% and area damage by 10%. 3. Stab, increases stabbing physical damage by 20% and improves penetration by 10%. Lioro quietly stared at the three options available for additional weapon expertise. This is an important selection for the special class. For each level in Valkyrie, the player can gain 1 weapon expertise. So there were a total of 5 weapon expertise in the Valkyrie class. But to make the best use of the additional weapon expertise, one must choose only one of the 3 choices: strike, slash or stab for all 5 times to maximize the attacking power. Additional weapon expertise also affects heroic spirit Einherjar. A player can end up with a weak and incomplete Einherjar if he doesn't select only 1 expertise for all 5 levels. After thinking for a moment, Lioro decided to go with strike, as it increases critical chance. Additional weapon expertise LV5. Strike, increases physical damage from strikes by 100% and increases critical strike chance by 50%. Tightly clenching his fist, he started upgrading Genius Profession. Genius 2 LV to Genius 7 LV. Experience gained, 262,566 60,000. It only goes up to 7 levels. Lioro tilted his head in confusion. According to his knowledge, a general profession should be able to level up to level 15 like a basic class. But it seems the genius profession was somewhat different. Opening up the panel, he looked at his new attributes. Attribute table. Player, Lioro. Faction value, 90 neutral. HP, 275 22.1%, MP, 345 26.5%. Physical attack, 275 22.1%. Physical defense, 275 22.1%. Agility, 275 22.1%. Magic attack, 345 26.5%. Magic defense, 345 26.5%. Comprehensive resistance, 65.5%. Specialty, 275 22.1%. Total, 167.9%. Ability table. Natural abnormality ability, 6 eyes. Comprehensive level, 29 LV, 100 LV. Experience slot, 262,566 60,000. Profession. General, Genius 7 LV. Intermediate profession, Jujutsu Sorcerer 7 LV. Height Special. Dimensional Traveler 5 LV, Curse Knight 5 LV, Valkyrie 5 LV. Skill Points, 75. Passive Skills. Prop Box, High Space Resistance, Immunity to Tier 7 and below, Traveler's Resilience, Etheric Balance, All Attribute Resistance 5%, Dark Attribute Resistance 40%, Complete Curse Resistance, Curse Immunity, Cursed User, Additional Weapon Expertise, LV5, Strike Damage 100% increased, Critical Strike Chance 50% increased. Aura of Courage, Divine Blessing, Holy Attribute Resistance 20%. Active Skills. Genius, Scroll Scribbler, Alchemist, Pharmacist, Warrior, Magician, Magic Chanter, Priest Magic Upgrade, Scroll Engraving, Alchemy, Pharmaceuticals, Papermaking, 0th tier, Odorless, 0th tier, Magic Arrow, 1st tier, Light Healing, 1st tier, Invisibility, 2nd tier. Jujutsu Sorcerer Red, 7th tier, Blue, 6th tier, Limitless, Hollow Purple, 10th tier, Unlimited Void. Dimensional Traveler, Dimensional Rift, Echo Step, Void Veil, Multiverse Digger. Curse Knight, Dark Wave, Cursed Wounds, Death's Mark. Valkyrie Guided Oath of Redemption, Heroic Spirit, Einherjar, Negative Impact Shield, Sacred Throwing Lance. Resistances. All Attribute Resistance, 5%. Complete Curse Immunity, all tiers. High Resistance, Immunity to Tier 7 and below, Space. Space, 40%. Dark, 40%. Holy, 20%. Comprehensive Level 29. He remembered that monsters between levels 21 and 29 were considered monsters who could threaten a small or large town. Gazef fell into this category. Starting from level 30 to 35 was the realm of heroes. Most members of the 13 heroes who fought against the 8 evil deities in the past fell under this category. It is said that only a hero can fight against another hero and simple numbers are useless against them. Beyond that, from levels 36 plus, such people would be regarded as outliers. For outliers go beyond the limits of heroes. Of course, the categorization doesn't really include him, ignoring everything else, just based on the fact that he is someone who could use a 10th tier spell from level 1 makes him abnormal, to say the least. After going through everything, Lioro focused on the genius profession. There were 2 more classes added in genius after he learned the spells Light Healing and Magic Upgrade. This means his genius multiplier has reached level 7 x 7 equals 49. He can now learn up to 7th tier magic from all fields. And if he manages to learn a new spell from a different profession, his multiplier will increase again, reaching the 8th tier. Lioro narrowed his eyes and thought in his mind. Genius maxed out at level 7, meaning if I want to learn 10th tier spells, I have to find 4 different classes to increase the multiplier and reach level 70. Making a note for his future self, decided to use his newly acquired magic. Cutting his finger, he started drawing a magic circle on the ground using his blood. In no time the circle was complete. He cast the tier 1 spell he just learned. Light Healing. A transparent soothing green light instantly covered his palm. Lioro activated the effect of magic upgrade. The blood magic pattern under him lit up and Lioro felt his mana depletion increased a lot compared to before, though it was still negligible to him. The transparent light instantly condensed, covering his entire palm in light green. Visible rays of healing magic can be seen coming out from it. The 3rd tier magic, Heavy Recover, has been discovered. It requires a basic cleric profession and a level requirement of 15 to 21. The current conditions are not met. Genius Cleric profession has been activated. Transformation successful. The learning conditions are met. Do you want to consume 1 skill point to learn it? Yes. Instantly new memories rushed into Lioro's mind, and in no time he learned 3rd tier spell. But he was far from done. Opening his mouth, he cast the new spell. Heavy Recover. A dazzling red light came out from the magic pattern and enveloped the 3rd tier spell. In the next moment, the entire basement was lit up due to the soothing light coming out of Lioro's palm. The 5th tier magic, Major Arcover, has been discovered. It requires a basic cleric profession and a level requirement of 28 to 35. The current conditions are not met. Genius Cleric profession has been activated. Transformation successful. The learning conditions are met. Do you want to consume 1 skill point to learn it? Lioro accepted and managed to learn his first 5th tiered spell. Major Recover 5th tier. Mana cost, 40 megapixels. Description. A single target healing spell designed for severe injuries, restores a large portion of a target's HP, and recovers negative status such as broken bones and ruptured organs. Removes curse from the target. Dash 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 dash. With that, he started upgrading his other spell. Invisibility. The 5th tier magic, Advanced Invisibility, has been discovered. It requires a basic cleric profession in a level requirement of 28 to 35. The current conditions are not met. He learned it and upgraded it again. The 6th tier magic, Phantom Veil, has been discovered. It requires a basic cleric profession in a level requirement of 36 to 42. The current conditions are not met. Dash 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 dash. Phantom Veil, 6th tier. Mana, 70 megapixels. Description. A high-tier invisibility spell that not only renders the caster completely unseen but also bends light and suppresses minor sound emissions, making detection significantly harder. Cannot be detected by magical detection below the 7th tier. Dash 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 dash. Lioro moved on to his other spell. Magic Arrow. A single magic arrow formed above him. Lioro again used magic upgrade, but this time the magic pattern didn't light up, remaining motionless. Frowning lightly, he again tried to activate magic upgrade, but it once again showed no response. Lioro fell in confusion. The magic upgrade was working perfectly fine, so why was he unable to upgrade magic arrow? Narrowing his eyes, he started experimenting. After messing around, he came to a conclusion. Magic arrow doesn't have a higher tiered version. There was no 2nd or 3rd tiered magic arrow spell available. Magic arrow's limit was only tier 1. It was a disappointing spell. Lioro pulled up his ability table. Dash 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 dash. Ability table. Natural abnormality ability, 6 eyes. Comprehensive level, 29 LV, 100 LV. Experience slot, 262,566 60 thousandths. Profession. General, Genius 7 LV. Intermediate profession, Jujutsu Sorcerer 7 LV. Height Special, Dimensional Traveler 5 LV, Curse Knight 5 LV, Valkyrie 5 LV. Skill points, 72. Passive skills. Prop box, high space resistance, immunity to tier 7 and below, traveler's resilience, etheric balance, all attribute resistance 5%, dark attribute resistance 40%, complete curse resistance, curse immunity, cursed user, additional weapon expertise, LV5, strike damage 100% increased, critical strike chance 50% increased. Aura of courage, divine blessing, holy attribute resistance 20%. Active skills. Genius, Scroll Scribbler, Alchemist, Pharmacist, Warrior, Magician, Magic Chanter, Cleric, Magic Upgrade, Scroll Engraving, Alchemy, Pharmaceuticals, Papermaking, 0th tier, Odorless, 0th tier, Magic Arrow, 1st tier, Light Healing, 1st tier, Invisibility, 2nd tier, Heavy Recover, 3rd tier, Major Recover, 5th tier, Advanced Invisibility, 5th tier, Phantom Veil, 6th tier. Jujutsu Sorcerer Red, 7th tier, Blue, 6th tier, Limitless, Hollow Purple, 10th tier, Unlimited Void. Dimensional Traveler, Dimensional Rift, Echo Step, Void Veil, Multiverse Digger. Curse Knight, Dark Wave, Cursed Wounds, Death's Mark. Valkyrie Guided Oath of Redemption, Heroic Spirit, Einherjar, Negative Impact Shield, Sacred Throwing Lance. Resistances. All Attribute Resistance, 5%. Complete Curse Immunity, all tiers. High Resistance, Immunity to Tier 7 and below, Space. Space, 40%. Dark, 40%. Holy, 20%. Dash 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 dash. I want more spells. Lioro was itching to go out and learn more powerful and useful spells. Even martial arts. But he decided to do it tomorrow. For now, he was going to sleep. Walking out of the basement, he made his way to the 2nd floor, selected a random room with a bed, and laid down on it. But as soon as he did, he was greeted by a cloud of dust. Fortunately, Infinity was there to save him. After cursing at the previous owner, Lioro teleported to his room in the Resting Boar Inn. There were 2 beds in the room and both of them were being used by his sleeping sisters. Releasing a sigh, Lioro used Gojo's power to phase back to his house. Making his way to the backyard, he saw the sleeping Hamsuke. Looking at Hamsuke's soft and fluffy belly, Lioro didn't think much and used it as his temporary bed. 2 comments 0 vote. Chapter 15. Increasing Fame. The next day. A large crowd gathered together. Attracted by Hamsuke's majestic appearance. While the crowd was staring at Hamsuke, Lioro brought his sisters to their new house. Suer and Ninya stared at the 3-story house with stars in their eyes. Lioro, did you really buy this house? Of course. Lioro continued with a smile haughty on his face. It's a little small but it will do for now. Small. Suer gave Lioro a weird look. Brother, is that really your magic beast? Ninya asked in a hesitant voice while curiously looking at Hamsuk on the side. Of course, would you like to pet him? See, can I? Ninya suddenly brought her hands together and asked in an excited voice. Suer also looked at him with shining eyes. Lioro waved at Hamsuk to come forth. Hello, master sisters. This one is Hamsuk that he is. Hamsuk suddenly stood up on 2 feet and extended his hand toward the stunned Ninya and Suer. It can walk. Someone in the crowd exclaimed in a loud voice. Gulping down a mouthful of saliva, Ninya carefully grabbed Hamsuke's hand, feeling the rough and somewhat sharp texture. She couldn't help but give Hamsuk another look. You can try hugging him, he's quite soft and warm. Lioro said from experience, pointing at Hamsuke's belly. Ninya's eyes lit up as she sheepishly took a step forward, spread out her arms and hugged Hamsuke's belly. Instantly she was hit by a soft and warm sensation. Kya! Brother is so soft. Ninya exclaimed while rubbing her face in Hamsuke's fur. Lioro turned towards Suer and asked. Don't you want to try it? Yes. Hurriedly nodding her head, Suer quickly went forward and hugged Hamsuke's left side. Kya! He's so soft. Hamsuk is strong Gosu. Not soft. Lioro ignored Hamsuke's pitiful gaze and silently looked at the crowd gathering around their house. They kept pointing at Hamsuk, talking among themselves. Seeing Hamsuke's popularity, an idea appeared in Lioro's mind. He quickly went inside the house and came back carrying a wooden board and ink in his hand. He quickly made a potion icon on the board. Since he didn't know the language, he could only make do with an icon for now. Ninya and Suer let go of Hamsuk and walked up to him with curious eyes. Brother, what are you doing? Even the crowd's gaze was focused on Lioro. Advertisement. Saying in a small voice, Lioro finished making the sign and picked up the wooden board, bringing it to Hamsuk. Hamsuk, hold it above your head. What is this, master? Hamsuk asked in a confused voice while grabbing the wooden board and raising it above his head in a funny posture. Lioro took a few steps back and looked at his masterpiece. It actually looks quite good, no? Nodding his head in agreement, Lioro brought his sisters inside the house. Leaving behind the stunned Hamsuk. Am I supposed to keep holding this, Gosu? While Hamsuk was feeling confused, a rich-looking middle-aged man walked up to him. Is this a potion sign? The man asked Hamsuk, who was holding up the sign. Hamsuk looked at the man. The man also looked at Hamsuk. After a moment, Hamsuk said in a hesitant voice. That. I don't know, Gosu. The middle-aged man narrowed his eyes and rubbed his mustache before looking at the sign again and going up to the door. The door opened and the middle-aged man was led inside. The crowd stared at him with interested eyes, but no one else dared to step forward. Not long after, the middle-aged man returned with an incredible look on his face, carrying a red potion bottle in hand. Some sharp people in the crowd quickly approached the man and asked him questions. After hearing his answer, they also made their way towards Lioro's house and went inside. Similar to the man from before, they all came back with a shocked look on their face, each carrying a red potion in hand. Why only one per person? One of them complained in a loud voice while staring at Lioro's house. The cycle continued. And in less than a day, the news about a genius alchemist who sells a red healing potion with a powerful magic beast as his pet spreads throughout Yggdrasil. Especially since the effectiveness of the red potion was far superior to the blue one everyone was familiar with. After Lioro sold his 50th bottle of Tier 1 healing potion, he stopped taking in customers and told Hamsuk to turn away anyone else who came. How was it? Lioro asked his flustered sisters, who were dazzled by the amount of gold coins in front of them. I can't believe someone bought it for 10 gold. Lioro's smile widened. Initially he was only going to sell about 10 bottles at 1 gold each, but seeing the Nig line outside his house, he decided to try and increase the price. And amazingly, even at 10 gold per bottle, there were people willing to buy it. Seeing the money in front of him, Lioro felt like a corrupt capitalist. His only expenditure when creating a Tier 1 potion was troll's blood, which he could get by hunting or simply capturing a troll and harvesting blood from time to time. With a troll's regeneration capability, it shouldn't be a problem to harvest a few liters of blood every day. But I have to give my time when creating potions. He was the only one who could make Tier 1 potions after all. How about opening a famous food chain from my previous life? Looking at his two sisters, Lioro carefully thought in his mind. It can work as a livelihood for them and might even positively affect Ains's future opinion. With the idea in mind, Lioro started implementing it. Let's sell burger. Easy to make, quick to sell. After discussing it with his sisters, Lioro went out and brought back a few carpenters and house workers. His plan was to divide the ground floor of the house into two parts, one for selling potions and the other for a small burger shop. He will fill the new world with diabetes. Then sell its cure right in the shop next door. It will be a money-making machine. Simply wonderful. After telling them the general design, Lioro offered the workers a high price, making them excited and quickly start working. Leaving the supervision to his sisters and Hamsuk, Lioro went to the first floor and used Gojo's power to teleport to the great forest of Tob. There he searched around before finding Fang, who was leading a group of monsters. Master, you're back. Fang exclaimed in a surprised and fearful voice, seeing Lioro appear before him. I need to capture some trolls for me. Listening to Lioro's words, Fang hurriedly nodded his head. If you do well, I will reward you. Leaving behind those words, Lioro teleported again and left the forest. After returning to his house, Lioro sat on a chair and started thinking about his next move. The food and potion business were still secondary after all, the primary motive was still to improve his strength. Where to learn new spells and martial arts? He thought in his mind. Suddenly the figure of a bald old man appeared in his mind. Kaji, it should be at the cemetery, no. Raising his undead army. The necromancer who got owned by Narbarrel. Skeleton dragon sounds like a cool spell. Alright, it's decided. Having made up his mind, Lioro got up and left the home, making his way towards Yggdrasil graveyard. Not long after. Inside the graveyard. Lioro raised his leg and stepped on Kajiat's face, saying in a calm voice. Old man, show me all of your spells. With half his face buried in the mud, Kajiat stared at Lioro in fear. 2 comments 0 vote. Chapter 16, Necromancer Kajiat. Rantel, commentary. Lioro bypassed the graves around him and quickly made his way forward. There was no undead or anything to block his path since it was still 1 or 2 years before the plot started. After covering some distance, Lioro came across a familiar giant tomb structure. It was identical to the one he saw in the anime, the place where Kajiat stayed. Looking at the open entrance, Lioro simply walked inside. Uncaring about any traps or such Kajiat might have planted. As he was walking down the stairs, he encountered his first skeleton. Whhh. A weird sound escaped the skeleton's mouth as it raised its metal sword and brought it down on Lioro. Before the skeleton's sword could reach him, a punch landed on the skeleton, breaking it apart in one blow. Experience gained, 20. Stepping on the remains of the skeleton, Lioro made his way forward. The further he went, the more skeletons tried to block his path. But all of them died with just a single punch from him. Lioro suddenly stopped when he saw the skeletons move and give way for him. As if inviting him inside. It seems Kajiat finally noticed his presence. Smiling lightly, Lioro made his way down the stairs. With the skeletons no longer attacking him, he quickly reached the lowest floor. There he saw an altar in the middle of a huge room filled with skeletons. On the altar stood the bald old man he was looking for, surrounded by his black-robed colleagues. Holding the jewel of death in his hand, Kajiat stared deeply at Lioro. I don't know whether to praise your bravery or laugh at your stupidity for willingly walking into the enemy's trap. A large group of skeletons suddenly came from the stairs, covering Lioro's way back. Now tell me who you are. Before Kajiat could finish, Lioro suddenly jumped high in the air, falling straight towards him. Looking at the free-falling Lioro, Kajiat couldn't believe his eyes. What an idiot. Kajiat raised his hand and fired a spell. Acid Javelin. A green javelin suddenly formed in the air and went straight towards Lioro at an amazing speed. At the same time, the black robe around Kajiat's also attacked with various low-level spells. Kajiat sneered seeing the attacks hit Lioro. But the next moment his eyes widened, seeing Lioro's perfectly fine figure coming out of the attacks unscathed. A shield. As Kajiat muttered in a small voice, Lioro landed behind him, right beside a black robe. Before the black robe could react, Lioro threw a punch straight at his face, cracking his head open and killing him on the spot. Then Lioro suddenly raised his leg and harshly kicked the abdomen of another black robe, sending him flying through the air. Seeing the scene, Kajiat tightened the grip on his dead ord and cast a spell at Lioro. Undead Flame. A dark flame burst out from his hand, heading straight towards Lioro, who grabbed a nearby black robe and used him to block his undead flame. Idiot, the undead flame spreads like a wildfire. Kajiat couldn't continue his words as he saw Lioro, who was once again perfectly fine surrounded by the undead flame. However, the same couldn't be said for his other black-robed companions who died miserably under the spreading undead flame. Now only Lioro and Kajiat were left in the place. Several skeletons started moving, covering the space between Kajiat and Lioro. Looking at Kajiat, who was staring vigilantly at him, Lioro asked in a calm voice. "What do you think?" His sudden words confused Kajiat. "What? What do you think about the battle just now? Did I fight like a qualified warrior?" There was genuine curiosity in Lioro's voice. Kajiat was confused. "You? What do you mean? A qualified warrior, did I fight like one? A qualified warrior?" Kajiat scoffed. "You dare call yourself that? After you willingly walked inside the enemy's trap and even did that unnecessary jump at the start. I thought the jump was cool. And it left you open to attacks." Kajiat controlled himself and stared deeply at Lioro. "But you do have a strong defensive magic." Lioro blinked at him and said. "Summon the skeleton dragon." Kajiat's eyes shook. He couldn't believe his ears. "He knows. And he wants me to summon it." Looking at Lioro's calm face, a terrible premonition appeared in his mind. It couldn't be. Tightly gritting his teeth, Kajiat shouted in a loud voice. "You. Who the hell are you?" "Nobody, now summon the skeleton dragon, I have other things to do afterward." Seeing Lioro disrespectfully waving his hand at him, Kajiat tightly clenched the jewel of death and raised it up, shouting in a loud voice. "Since you want to die so badly, then so be it. Come out. Skeleton dragon." As the jewel of death lost its luster, an earthquake hit the ground. Crack. Followed by a loud noise, the earth cracked wide open and a tower of bones rushed out, forming the shape of a giant monstrosity only spoken of in legend. The skeletal dragon was composed of countless human bones and stood over 3 meters tall. Its head contains 4 hollow eye sockets, each with a crimson glow. On its back were a pair of bat-like wings attached to its shoulders and 4 limbs. The 6th tier magic, Summoned Skeleton Dragon, has been discovered. It requires a necromancer profession in a level requirement of 36 to 41. The current conditions are not met. Genius necromancer profession has been activated. Transformation successful. The learning conditions are met. Do you want to consume 1 skill point to learn it? Lioro smiled and learned the spell. A new necromancer profession was added under Genius class section, bringing Genius's level multiplier to 7, meaning Genius class level 7x sub-professions 7 equals LV49. With all 7 sub-classes reaching level 49, he was now able to learn 7th tier spells of their respective fields. The knowledge to summon Skeleton Dragon appeared in Lioro's mind. Interestingly, the spell for summoning Skeleton Dragon was different from the normal summon undead spell. While Lioro was busy in his thoughts, a giant skeleton claw descended upon him, cracking the ground and sending the nearby skeletons flying due to the aftershock. But instead of being happy, Kajiat took a step back in fear, because he clearly saw the skeleton dragon's attack stop right before it could hit Lioro. Just what kind of barrier is this? While Kajiat was in disbelief, Lioro suddenly raised his hand, summoning a pure white lance made up of a sacred aura. Holy attack. Are you a priest? But it's useless. Skeleton dragons are immune to magic. Lioro gave the shouting Kajiat a weird look. Well, this is a skill, not magic. Then he sent the lance towards the skeleton dragon. Sacred throwing lance. With its sure hit effect, the sacred throwing lance went straight for the skeleton dragon's head, directly blasting it to pieces and even dissolving its bones under the effect of the sacred attributes. Kajiat stared in disbelief as his skeleton dragon dissolved under the power of the holy attribute. Gulping down a mouthful of saliva, Kajiat slowly turned his head towards Lioro, but he stopped when he saw Lioro nowhere to be seen. Before he could look around, a hand suddenly patted his right shoulder, making Kajiat flinch and tremblingly turn his head towards his left side. There he saw a familiar face, looking straight at him. Teach me magic, Kajiat. With that pair of unsettling blue eyes. Stepping on Kajiat's bald face, Lioro looked at the new spells he just learned. Acid Javelin, 2nd tier spell, fires a bolt of caustic acid towards an enemy. Create Undead, a 3rd tier spell that allows the user to spawn a low tier undead minion. Mind of Undeath, a 2nd tier spell that protects target from mind affecting spells. Ray of Negative Energy, a 2nd tier spell that releases a beam of dark power and can heal undead. Reinforce Armor, a 1st tier spell that raises the target's defense. Undead Flame. A third-tier spell that surrounds the target in an aura of black flames made of negative energy which will engulf the enemy when they make contact. There were few more but they didn't interest him like a barrier spell which was useless since he had infinity along with a silence spell which he can simply cast using the magic props he stole from the Magician's Guild. Is this all, old man? I don't like any of your spells. Don't you have any hidden card up your sleeve or something? Lioro asked without much expectation. Kajiat clenched his fist in anger. Lioro gives him a deal, saying he will let Kajiat go if he teaches him a spell of his choice. So under Lioro's persuasion, Kajiat first performed his spells to see which one Lioro liked. After Lioro selects the one he prefers, Kajiat will teach it to him in exchange for his life. Unfortunately, what Kajiat didn't know was that Lioro could simply copy his spells after seeing it once. There was no need for so-called teaching afterwards. Lioro started applying pressure in his leg. Feeling that his head was about to be crushed, Kajiat suddenly opened his mouth and shouted. Spiral of Death. Lioro stopped applying pressure and looked at the old man with interest. What's that? A spell. Show it to me. Will you let me live? If I teach it to you. Of course. That was our deal from the start, you know. Lioro removed his leg from Kajiat's head, allowing the bald old man to stand up. After he was freed, Kajiat didn't waste any time and started making magic patterns on the ground. Lioro looked at him curiously from the side. After some time, Kajiat finally finished forming the complete pattern. And a familiar window appeared before Lioro's eyes. The spell, Spiral of Death, has been discovered. It requires the profession, Magic Chanter. The current conditions are not met. Genius Magic Chanter activated. Transformation successful. Learn skill. Another ritual magic. Lioro thought in his mind as he learned the spell. Suddenly newfound knowledge rushed into Lioro's mind, making him look at Kajiat. This is a spell to turn into an Elder Lich. Kajiat was stunned, he was just about to explain the spell when Lioro suddenly stated its use. A bad premonition instantly hit Kajiat. You know this spell. It can turn a person into an Elder Lich after using a large amount of negative energy. I see, that's why you were gathering your little army of undead. Your plan was to massacre Rantel, collect enough negative energy then transform into an Elder Lich. Kajiat lost his footing and fell on his back. Staring at Lioro with blank eyes, he said in a hoarse voice. Kill me. Lioro took out a sword from his prop box and cleanly severed Kajiat's head from his body. 2 comments 0 vote. Chapter 17, Tier 7 Spell. Unexpected Teabag. After separating Kajiat's head from his body, Lioro looked at the undead skeletons around him, rushing straight at him. Since Kajiat died, the skeletons, now freed from his control, started attacking the nearest life source they found. Lioro casually waved his sword, destroying several skeletons around him. But there were just too many of them, and they kept coming. Let's try my new spell. Ignoring the skeletons stopped by infinity, Lioro activated his 6th tier spell. Summon Skeleton Dragon. The earth in front of him cracked, revealing a sea of bone, followed by a loud road. The bones assembled together to form the figure of an undead calamity, a skeleton dragon. Spell. Summon Skeleton Dragon, 6th tier. MP. 75. Introduction. Summons a colossal skeletal dragon imbued with necrotic energy. This undead beast possesses high physical resistance, immune to tier 6 and below magic, immunity to poison and mind-affecting spells, and a corrosive breath attack that weakens living beings. Roar. The skeleton dragon roared loudly and raised his claw high, bringing it down on the undead soldiers, breaking them apart, wreaking destruction everywhere. Experience gained, 17. Experience gained, 19. Experience gained, 17. While the skeleton dragon was busy clearing the skeletons, Lioro finished drawing a familiar pattern on the ground. Magic upgrade. Opening his panel, Lioro started thinking about the spell he wanted to upgrade. After all, skill points were limited, and he didn't want to be betrayed by a spell that he thought could reach tier 10, only to be limited to tier 6 or something. That is why he first decided to only upgrade spells he knew would reach tier 10 in the future. And those spells were Create Undead tier 3 and Phantom Veil tier 6. Yes, only 2 spells. Because he honestly doesn't think the other spells could reach tier 10. And he had limited skill points. Plus he didn't think Phantom Veil needed to be upgraded right now, so he postponed its increase, thinking of directly upgrading it to tier 8 instead of tier 7 when his genius job gains another multiplier. So he started upgrading Create Undead. The 5th tier magic, Summon Undead 5th, has been discovered. It requires a basic necromancer profession and a level requirement of 28 to 35. The current conditions are not met. The 6th tier magic, Summon Undead 6th, has been discovered. It requires a basic necromancer profession and a level requirement of 36 to 42. The current conditions are not met. The 7th tier magic, Summon Undead 7th, has been discovered. It requires a basic necromancer profession and a level requirement of 43 to 49. The current conditions are not met. Spell, Summon Undead 5th tier. Mana, 30 megapixels. Description, allows one to summon 5th tier undead summons like Heavy Skeleton Warrior, Expert Skeleton Archer, Plague Bomber, etc. Spell, Summon Undead 6th tier. Mana, 39 megapixels. Description, allows one to summon middle tier undead like Heavy Corpse Collector, Jack the Ripper, Elder Lich, Death Knight, Soul Eaters, Vanquished Spectre, etc. Spell, Summon Undead 7th tier. Mana, 39 megapixels. Description, allows one to summon middle tier undead like Doom Skeleton, Corpse General, Wailing Banshee, Blight Ghoul, Dread Knight, Greater Soul Eater, etc. Knowledge to summon various undead monsters appeared in his mind. In general, undead monsters were divided into 3 categories: skeleton, zombie, and spectral. From tier 1st to 4th were low-tier undead soldiers, from tier 5th to 7th were middle-tier undead soldiers, finally from 8th to 10th tier were high-level undead soldiers. As the tier increases, more and more spectral-type undead get unlocked. Finally at tier 10th where you get Doom Lord, Elemental Skull, etc. Hearing the crashing noise in that background quiet down, Lioro turned to look at the skeleton dragon who had finished killing all the low-tier undead skeletons and was silently staring at him. From those beaming red eyes, he actually felt a hint of affection. The corners of Lioro's mouth started twitching heavily. Shaking his head, he got rid of the weird thought and looked carefully at the skeleton dragon. Does Summon Skeleton Dragon spell have a higher tier? Honestly, he never saw Ain summon a skeleton dragon in the series. Also, the Summon Undead spell, which he just upgraded to tier 7, did not include knowledge about summoning an undead dragon. Though he could summon an undead wyvern using Summon Undead 5th. Let's check it out. The easiest way to find out was by doing a practical experiment. So Lioro once again cast his spell. Summon Skeleton Dragon. Instantly the earth cracked open as an ocean of bones rushed out. But just before they could turn into a skeleton dragon, magic upgrade activated. An evil flame enveloped the ocean of bones and an eerie sound spread throughout the place. Under Lioro's expectant eyes, a skeleton dragon took shape, but unlike the previous one, this skeleton dragon was a head taller with an evil black flame burning all over his body, constantly spreading to its surroundings as an AoE effect. Lioro narrowed his eyes, looking at the evil flame which was blocked by infinity. A familiar spell notification appeared before his eyes. After spending a skill point he learned the new spell. Spell, Summon Wraithbone Dragon, 7th tier. MP, 50. Introduction. An advanced variant of the skeleton dragon, crafted from enchanted bones suffused with wraith essence, granting it enhanced durability and heightened resistance to holy magic. Its entire body is wreathed in wraith flame, an eerie, spectral fire that never fades, searing foes with necrotic energy and inflicting debilitating status effects such as curse, fear, and mana corruption upon contact. It is completely immunity to tier 7 and below magic and possesses high-tier physical damage and vulnerability. This is quite FC King strong, isn't it? It's immune to both red and blue. Immunity to tier 7 and below spells. God damn. Does it still have a higher tier? Lioro stared at the Wraithbone dragon with shining eyes. He didn't believe Yggdrasil had a spell like this. Because it was literally cheating. Skeleton Dragon looked at Wraithbone Dragon and then at Lioro. Seeing Lioro's excitement, Skeleton Dragon lowered his head in sadness. Lioro contained his excitement and picked up the Jewel of Death dropped by Kajiat. Holding the jewel in his hand, he felt a familiar energy inside it. It seemed that the item was cursed. Suddenly a creepy voice sounded in his mind. Hehe, do you want immortality or unlimited power? Lioro gave the jewel a weird look. This was the first time he found a cursed item. He started absorbing the hidden cursed energy. I have everything you need. No, wait. Wait. What is this? No. Dash dash. As he absorbed the last bit of cursed energy, the voice vanished and the jewel fell silent. Lioro played around with the jewel. Unfortunately, this time no panel popped up to give him information. He also didn't know any appraisal spell to find the jewel's use. Putting the jewel of death inside his prop box, Lioro walked out of Kajiat's base. But as he was walking up the stairs, Lioro noticed a problem. The skeleton and wraithbone dragons were both too big to fit through the small opening. After thinking for a moment, Lioro cancelled their summoning, turning the two undead dragons to dust. Then Lioro raised his hand and summoned a hollow purple. Throwing to down, he destroyed everything inside the base, including the corpses of Kajiat and his assailants to prevent resurrection. Seeing that everything was done, Lioro stepped out of the place and exited the cemetery, making his way back home. Dash 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 dash. A week later. Inside the great forest of Tob. Lioro calmly extracted blood from the chain troll in front of him. Behind him stood Fang along with a Death Knight. After Lioro was done collecting the blood, he turned to Fang and said, "You don't need to capture trolls anymore, I will tell you if I need it again." Sharp hurriedly nodded his head, too scared to look at the Death Knight beside it. Lioro pointed at the Death Knight and continued. "Death Knight will stay here with you, you can use it for your security." Fang almost fainted on the spot. But then he stopped and remembered how powerful the Death Knight was. Fang couldn't help but look at the Death Knight. "Wait, so I can command this monster." Fang's eyes lit up, he suddenly started seeing the Death Knight in a new light. "Keep increasing the monster population and make sure to not attack Rantel. If you fail to follow either one, then I will kill you." Fang suddenly became nervous and hurriedly asked. "That. Master, what about the human adventurers?" Lioro thought for a moment before speaking. "If they attack you, then you can retaliate." After he was done, Lioro teleported back to his house in Rantel. Walking downstairs, he saw his sisters, Suer and Ninya, who were busy making burgers and selling them to the crowd of customers lined outside. As he expected, the junk food of modern society and a leading cause of diabetes quickly gained popularity and started selling itself. Lioro moved his gaze and looked at Hamsuk, who quietly sat outside the burger shop, enjoying the sunlight. With Hamsuk acting as a guard, no one dared to have any shady thoughts. Lioro scratched his nose and took out a mithril plate from his inventory. After he captured the wise king of the forest, the guild improved his rank from silver to mithril. It was a crazy leap that came with many hidden benefits. Opening up his panel, Lioro looked at his ability table. Ability table. Natural abnormality ability, 6 eyes. Comprehensive level, 29 LV, 100 LV. Experience slot, 292,566 60,000. Profession. General. Genius 7 LV. Intermediate profession, Jujutsu Sorcerer 7 LV. Height Special, Dimensional Traveler 5 LV, Curse Knight 5 LV, Valkyrie 5 LV. Skill points, 58. Passive skills, Prop Box, High Space Resistance, Immunity to Tier 7 and below, Traveler's Resilience, Etheric Balance, All Attribute Resistance 5%, Dark Attribute Resistance 40%, Complete Curse Resistance, Curse Immunity, Cursed User, Additional Weapon Expertise LV5, Strike Damage 100% increased, Critical Strike Chance 50% increased. Aura of Courage, Divine Blessing, Holy Attribute Resistance 20%. Active Skills. Genius, Scroll Scribbler, Alchemist, Necromancer, Pharmacist, Warrior, Magician, Magic Chanter, Cleric, Magic Upgrade, Scroll Engraving, Alchemy, Pharmaceuticals, Papermaking, 0th tier, Odorless, 0th tier, Reinforce Armor, 1st tier, Magic Arrow, 1st tier, Light Healing, 1st tier, Ray of Negative Energy, 2nd tier, Mind of Undeath, 2nd tier, Acid Javelin, 2nd tier, Invisibility, 2nd tier, Undead Flame, 3rd tier, Create Undead, 3rd tier, Heavy Recover, 3rd tier, Summon Undead, 5th tier, Major Recover, 5th tier, Advanced Invisibility, 5th tier, Summon Undead, 6th tier, Phantom Veil, 6th tier, Summon Skeleton Dragon, 6th tier, Summon Undead, 7th tier, Summon Wraithbone Dragon, 7th tier. Jujutsu Sorcerer Red, 7th tier, Blue, 6th tier, Limitless, Hollow Purple, 10th tier, Unlimited Void. Dimensional Traveler, Dimensional Rift, Echo Step, Void Veil, Multiverse Digger. Curse Knight, Dark Wave, Cursed Wounds, Death's Mark. Valkyrie Guided Oath of Redemption, Heroic Spirit, Einherjar, Negative Impact Shield, Sacred Throwing Lance. Moving his eyes, he focused on a skill he had been wanting to use for some time. Active skill, Dimensional Rift. It was more because of curiosity than anything. Perhaps I can return to my original world. The image of his home passed through Liero's mind. Let's take a quick look. If something happens, then I will return. The skill had a 24-hour cooldown, meaning he can return to Overlord after 24 hours. Will it take another 5 levels to return, or is the return ticket free? He will have to find that out. After making up his mind, Lioro decided to inform his sisters at night and activate his skill tomorrow. Hours passed by and evening came. Under Liero's instructions, Ninya and Suer reluctantly closed the burger shop. Hamsuk also went to the backyard, stepping into his house which looked similar to a stable. Brother, there are still customers outside. Ninya complained in a soft voice. They can come tomorrow, remember we have a fixed opening and closing schedule. Lioro shook his head and invited Ninya and Suer to sit before him. After they sat down, he opened his mouth and said, I will be leaving Rantel for some time. Both of them stared at him in surprise. You're leaving Rantel? Suer asked in a doubtful tone. Yes, I will most probably come back within a week or two. Lioro said in a calm voice. Suer and Ninya looked at each other. After hesitating for a moment, Ninya asked in a small voice. Brother. Lioro. Are you really our brother? Lioro looked at her in confusion. Where did that come from? You are completely different from Lioro. You don't have any of his habits. Suer said with a downcasted face. I see. Lioro touched his chin, he didn't deny their claim. Suer bit down on her lower lip. A conflicted look appeared on both the sisters' faces. Looking at their reaction, Lioro smiled and said. If you think of me as your brother, then I am your brother. Suer and Ninya looked at him. No matter what, I will try to give both of you a suitable life, better than the one you were originally meant to have. So grab every opportunity you have, forget about useless details, after all at the end of the day, success is the only thing that matters. Raising his hand, Lioro took out a magic book from his inventory and placed it on the table. I bought it from the Magician's Guild the other day, it mentions all the basics for one to start his journey as a magic caster. There are also some tier 0 and tier 1 spells in here that you can use. Looking at the two of them, he said. You can try studying it, if you are compatible then I believe becoming a magic caster will be the best for your future. If doesn't work then worry not, I believe burgers can become big enough to control nations. Lioro finished in a joking tone. But Suer and Ninya maintained their silence, not saying anything, their minds still in doubt. Lioro gave them a look before standing up and making his way towards the door. Just when he was about to leave the room, a familiar voice entered his ears. Thank you. For everything. Lioro stopped and turned to look at Suer. Seeing her serious expression, he smiled and shrugged his shoulder. No need to be so serious, we're family after all, I'll return in a week to check your progress. Waving his hand, Lioro exited the room. Staring at the closed door, Suer's expression softened. Ninya left looking at the magic book on the table. With that, the day came to an end. The next morning. Lioro took out the white dragon bone armor and wore it, looking like a seasoned warrior. Holding Frost Pain in his right hand, Lioro said in a calm voice. Dimensional Rift. Jujutsu Sorcerer 7 LV to Jujutsu Sorcerer 2 LV. In the next second his figure flickered before vanishing from the spot. Leaving behind the white dragon bone armor, Frost Pain, and a pair of clothes along with undergarments. In a busy marketplace. A petite woman with blue eyes and a youthful appearance was behind her makeshift wooden stall, selling street food made of potato. She was the goddess who descended to the lower world, Hestia. Unfortunately, today was a bad day for her as no one came to buy her food. But that wasn't the reason for her dissatisfaction. That was the 32nd time I got rejected. With a dispirited look on her face, the petite goddess complained silently. Why doesn't anyone want to join my familiar? Letting out a sigh, she leaned back and looked at the clear sky above. A nice weather, will I find my child today? Suddenly Hestia froze. She couldn't believe her eyes. Because she saw a boy floating in the air with his hand raised above his head, making an indescribable pose. An unfamiliar voice entered her ears. Throughout heaven and earth, I alone am the honored one. It was perfect. That pose, that line, that delivery. Everything was perfect. Or at least it would have been perfect. If only. He wasn't naked. Hestia's eyes enlarged seeing a flying bird moving around freely on the boy's lower body. She couldn't believe it. She didn't want to believe it. But reality came straight for her. No, well, it wasn't a figure of speech, as the boy really was falling straight towards her, while holding that weird pose of his. And before Hestia could react, the bird landed straight on her face. Hestia and the boy fell straight to the ground. The passerby looked at the scene with dumbfounded eyes. Crash. Lioro blinked his eyes in confusion and looked down at the woman under him. The more he looked at her, the more he thought her face seemed familiar. Until it clicked in his mind. Did I just teabag a goddess? Well, he was covered by infinity, so she technically didn't touch him. 7 comments 0 vote. Chapter 18. Danmachi. Shocked Hestia. Looking at the unconscious goddess under him, Lioro came to 3 conclusions. First, he traveled to the world of Danmachi. Second, he was butt naked. Third, he just teabagged Hestia. After he was done assessing the situation, Lioro stood up and met the eyes of the stunned passers-by. Seeing all of them looking straight at him, Lioro took in a deep breath and said silently, "Phantom Veil." In the next moment, he along with Hestia vanished from the spot. He just vanished. Where did he go? Damn, I wanted to see more. The crowd gave a weird look to the Amazonian who just spoke. Who was that anyway? I don't know, but his appearance was quite striking. Fortunately, there weren't many people around and those who saw the entire scene could be counted on one hand. As the crowd was dispersing, Lioro carrying the unconscious Hestia, under the effect of Phantom Veil made his way to a secluded alley. After taking out a pair of clothes from his prop box and wearing it, Lioro cancelled Phantom Veil and looked at the unconscious Hestia. It seems she injured the back of her head during the fall. Lioro raised his palm towards Hestia. Heavy recover. The soft healing light emitter by the Tier 3 spell surrounded Hestia and quickly started healing the injury on the back of her head. In no time the injury was gone. Hestia's eyelids trembled for a moment before slowly opening up. Suddenly a sharp pain hit her, making her grab her head in pain. It hurts. It hurts. It's your imagination, I just healed you. Who? Hearing the unfamiliar voice, Hestia suddenly jumped on her feet and looked at the white-haired boy in front of her. As soon as their eyes met, Hestia was stunned. Looking at that pair of beautiful blue eyes, she completely forgot whatever she was about to say. They were beautiful, yes, but she was even more attracted by their specialness. Indeed, she could tell, there must be something unique about those eyes. A special ability. Natural talent. Hestia's mind moved at lightning speed, she quickly moved her eyes and scanned Lioro's face. Kya. He's handsome, no wait. Focus. Hestia placed a hand on her chin and carefully examined Lioro. Seeing Hestia's serious expression, Lioro blinked in confusion. Hestia suddenly started circling around him with an ambiguous look on her face, making Lioro barely suppress the urge to hit her head. Still, Lioro stayed put and didn't stop her. After all, she was one of his favorite characters from one of his favorite animes. The Virgin Goddess, Hestia. While Hestia was observing Lioro, he too was observing her. Lioro's height was about the same as Belle's, meaning he was a head taller than Hestia. His eyes focused on Hestia's ponytails, which kept moving as if alive. Just when he was thinking about grabbing it, Hestia suddenly went behind him and raised his shirt. Seeing the clean back, she exclaimed in a loud voice. I knew it. I knew I didn't sense God's blessings from you. With excitement filling her eyes, Hestia came in front of Lioro and said in a hurry. You. Boy with beautiful eyes. Join my familia. Well, we can think about it. There's nothing to think about. Quickly join my familia. Hestia hurriedly raised her arms and lunged at Lioro, asked if trying to catch a unique prey. Lioro raised his hand and grabbed her head, stopping her in place. Still Hestia didn't relent and stretched her arms towards Lioro, making a grabbing motion. Lioro gave her a blank look, then his gaze suddenly focused on her chest. He had to say. Even though Hestia was petite, her chest was quite nice. Suddenly Lioro stopped, a thought appeared in his mind. Did I just stop Hestia from hugging me? His gaze moved towards Hestia, who was still trying to push her way forward, only to be stopped by his hand holding her head. After thinking for a moment, Lioro retracted his hand and turned off infinity. Mine. Along with an excited shout, Hestia jumped at Lioro and hugged him like a koala. Feeling the softness pressing against his body, Lioro couldn't help but look down. His and Hestia's gaze collided. I have marked you. Join my familia. Marked. Lioro scratched his nose and said. How about you get down first? Let's talk things through. I won't. I won't get down unless you agree. That. Didn't really seem like a bad deal. Lioro blinked his eyes, then hugged Hestia's weights. You. A blush instantly appeared on Hestia's face. Seeing the ambiguous look on Lioro's face, she instantly understood that her plan seemed to have backfired. Suddenly a light bulb lit up inside Hestia's mind. If you join my familiar, then I will hug you all you want. Hestia declared with a proud look on her face. Lioro gave her a weird look. Are you dumb or are you smart? I'm smart. I'm Hestia. Definitely dumb. Using his hands, Lioro grabbed her waist and placed her down. Hestia didn't try to intervene, simply looking at Lioro with hopeful eyes. Tell me about Falna first. It will be good to check if the settings were the same as in the anime. Falna. It's simply a blessing us gods give to the children of the lower world. Tell me what happens when you use Falna to upgrade status. Hestia tilted her head in confusion before replying. The child's power will get upgraded, increasing their strength. Do gods see the memory of the children when upgrading status? Yes, since experience is converted to power. That's an issue. Lioro narrowed his eyes. He didn't know how much memories the gods could see. He had too many secrets which simply cannot be disclosed. He really couldn't imagine how Hestia will react after knowing this whole world was fiction. The risk of joining a familiar were too high. Seeing Lioro's changing expression, a bad premonition hit Hestia. Quickly remembering what they just talked about, she instantly understood the problem. He doesn't want his memories seen. Did this child suffer from a terrible past? Suppressing her growing curiosity, Hestia said in a hurry. If you want, then I won't look at your memories. Lioro stopped and turned towards her. You can do that. Of course. I'll simply convert your experience without looking. Placing a hand on her chest, Hestia said in a serious voice. I vow in my name to never look at your memories without your permission. Well. Lioro scrunted his eyebrows. There were still too many risks. Only Hestia knew how credible her vows were. Though knowing her personality, she definitely wouldn't lie about these type of things. But still. Risks were too great. Just when Lioro was about to turn around, Hestia suddenly jumped and grabbed his legs, saying in a loud voice. Also, you shoved that thing on my face before. So you have to join. Oh, so she didn't forget. It seems the petite goddess was quite smart. Shrugging his shoulders, Lioro grabbed Hestia's neck and pulled her up from the ground. Looking at her clear blue eyes, he smiled. As I said, let's discuss more. Just join my familia already. 9 comments 0 vote. Chapter 19. Dungeon City. Tightly holding Lioro's hand, Hestia rushed through the street with a big smile pasted on her face. Lioro looked in curiosity at the people of different races passing by him. He saw a Palam, an Amazonian, and even a beast person. Lioro's head mechanically turned, following the tail of a beast woman. He wanted to grab it. But Hestia kept pulling him forward, making him temporarily give up on the idea. After passing through the marketplace, they arrived at a rundown area with hardly anyone around. In the distance, Lioro saw their destination, an abandoned church. From the outside, the place looked even more run down than it did in the anime. Stepping inside the church, Hestia let go of Lioro's hand and walked up to a broken wooden door. She quickly pushed it aside, revealing a passage to the underground. Come, let's go inside. With an energetic look on her face, Hestia grabbed Lioro's arm and hurriedly took him inside, not bothering to cover the entrance. After walking down the creepy stairs, Lioro saw Hestia's home, a single room underneath the church. There was a bed, a sofa, an old-looking almirah along with some other random stuff present inside. Looking at the place, Lioro actually found it comfortable. Honestly, he would have loved to have a place like this when he was in his original world, a small cozy underground place all to yourself and no one around to bother you. However, security might become an issue since any random thief could break in. While Lioro was lost in his thoughts, Hestia started panicking. He won't change his mind, would he? Cold sweats appeared on her back and a sense of urgency hit her mind. Opening her mouth, she let out a light cough, trying to get Lioro's attention. It worked. Lioro got rid of his thoughts and turned towards her. Hestia smiled, placed her hand on her chest, and said in a calm voice. Let's go again. My name is Hestia, a goddess from heaven. My power is gray. You're broke, aren't you? Lioro interrupted her and pointed out the harsh truth. Hestia instantly lost her energy and deflated like a balloon. You that. Avoiding his gaze, she brought her fingers together and tried to hurriedly think of an excuse. Lioro smiled, seeing her reaction. It was fun to tease her. Having thought of an excuse, Hestia faced him and tightly clenched her fist, saying in an energetic voice. We might be poor now, but with hard work and dedication it change soon. We. The corners of Liero's mouth twitched as he glanced at the various gold bars, precious metals, and hundreds of potion bottles inside his prop box. He made sure to prepare thoroughly before doing world travel. Whatever you say. Right. Then let's get started. Hestia quickly pulled him towards the bed. Take off your t-shirt, hurry. Lioro stopped pulling up his t-shirt and looked at Hestia's eager eyes. The scene didn't feel right for some reason. Suppressing his urge to hit her, Lioro took off his shirt and lay down on the bed. Hestia excitedly jumped on his back and made a small cut on her fingers, dropping her divine blood on his back. As soon as Hestia's blood touched Liero's back, a familiar panel appeared before his eyes. Triggering. Medium. Job acquisition condition. Conditions. Satisfied. God's blessing detected. Triggered the medium job. Adventurer. Do you want to take the job? Adventurer is a medium-level job. Lioro narrowed his eyes and fell into thought. On the other hand, Hestia stared at his back in confusion. Why isn't it working? She definitely followed the correct process. So where was the pattern? Why didn't she feel the connection? Just when Hestia was thinking of trying again, a small light came from Liero's back, forming a pattern she'd been waiting for. Hestia's face instantly lit up, barely containing her happiness at having taken in her first child. She quickly blocked the memories of Lioro coming to her mind and looked at his status. And as soon as she did, she froze in place. Because what she saw. Simply too king shocking. Hestia suddenly felt her body go weak and fell back on Liero's legs, making him turn his head and look at her. Lioro raised his legs, making Hestia sir back up again. Seeing her stunned face, he asked in a curious voice. What happened? Hearing his voice, Hestia snapped out of her daze, pointing at him with a shaking. She said in a stuttering voice. Why? You. Me. You. Me. No, me. I just hit the jackpot. Hestia shouted in excitement and jumped down from Liero's back. Lioro looked at her and then extended his hand. Hand me the paper, let me see. Ah yes, wait, I almost forgot. Hestia came and placed a sheet of paper on Liero's back, copying the status. Handing the paper to Lioro, she sat beside him and stared at him with stars in her eyes. Lioro ignored her gaze and looked at his status. Status. Level 1. Name Lioro. Age 12. Race human. Basic stats. Strength height 0. Endurance height 0. Dexterity height 0. Agility height 0. Magic height 0. Skills. Prop box, high space resistance, traveler's resilience, etheric balance, dark attribute resistance, complete curse resistance, cursed user, additional weapon expertise, aura of courage, divine blessing, holy resistance. Ps. Focus on Overlord panel only. This one is simply a rundown version of Overlord panel and I will hardly use it often. The first thing that caught Liero's eye was the level. Level 1. Lioro silently pulled up his panel and looked at the medium job he just accepted. Occupation. Adventurer. Level. Intermediate profession. Introduction. 1% increase in HP and MP per level, up to a maximum of 10%. Note. For each level increased, HP, MP, physical attack, physical defense, and agility all increased by 10 points. It was a decent profession. The 10% boost in HP and MP was quite nice. Liero's looked at the level of the adventurer profession on his panel. It was also level 1 and could go up to level 10 like any medium profession. Turning back towards the sheet of paper in his hand, Lioro looked at the various zeros in the basic William section. It seemed that it was true, that every person regardless of how strong or weak, starts from 0 in their status report. 0 here doesn't mean that they have no strength, instead what the status shows is how much new stats the person has gained after he received the blessing. This means it doesn't take into consideration the original base stats of the user and only mentions the stats they acquired after getting the blessing. Also, Lioro didn't think the value of stats in his Yggdrasil panel and Danmachi status were the same. Obviously, the value of stats given by Yggdrasil classes was higher than Danmachi's. Lastly, Lioro looked at the last part of his status, the skill section. Looking at the skills, Lioro tilted his head in confusion. Why does it only mention my passive skills? Lioro turned the sheet around, just to check if there was something written on the other side. But there was nothing there, the sheet was empty on the backside. Feeling confused, Lioro looked at the end of the skill section. He saw some small dots at the end. Since there are too many skills, it's unable to mention all of them. Lioro felt like his conjunction was reasonable. It seems the Danmachi status was limited in size and couldn't display everything, blocked of limited space on his back. This could be quite useful. Just to be sure, he asked Hestia. Did you write everything down? Of course. Why? Do you think I made a mistake? Hestia asked with a pout on her face. It doesn't seem like she's lying. This could only mean, Danmachi's status was limited by the space on his back and couldn't fully display all of his skills. Bringing up his panel, Lioro looked at his actual abilities. Ability table. Natural abnormality ability, 6 eyes. Comprehensive level, 25 LV, 100 LV. Experience slot, 262,566 10,000ths. Profession. General, Genius 7 LV. Intermediate profession, Jujutsu Sorcerer 2 LV, Adventurer 1 LV. Height Special, Dimensional Traveler 5 LV, Curse Knight 5 LV, Valkyrie 5 LV. Skill points, 58. Lioro suddenly stopped. He just noticed something crazy. Narrowing his eyes, he looked seriously at the panel. I sacrificed 5 levels of Jujutsu Sorcerer, and my stats decreased accordingly, even the experience amount decreased from 60,000 to 10,000. These details were fine and within his expectations. However, what shocked him were the skill points. 58. They were 58 before he performed world travel. And they were 58 even after he sacrificed 5 levels. Skill points didn't decrease. Lioro's eyes widened. Doesn't this mean I have unlimited skill points? He silently increased the level of Jujutsu Sorcerer to check it out. Jujutsu Sorcerer 2 LV to Jujutsu Sorcerer 3 LV. Skill points, 58 to 61. Damn, it really works. A level 100 player in Yggdrasil could only have 300 skill points, 3 per level, meaning they can learn 300 skills by the time they reach level 100. But he was simply built different. By traveling to different worlds, sacrificing his level then leveling up again, he can pretty much have an infinite supply of skill points. Please, give reviews and power stones. 10 comments 0 vote. Chapter 20, Exploring Dungeon City. Seeing the smile on Lioro's face, Hestia smirked and said. I bet even the strongest adventurer in Orario doesn't have as many skills as you do. Thinking about the bright future, Hestia raised her hand and made a fighting pose. Lioro looked at her in interest, then raised his arms towards her, confusing Hestia. Did you forget, goddess? You promised to give me hugs whenever I asked. For a moment Hestia cutely blinked her eyes, then her face flushed red. Lioro maintained his smile and made a grabbing gesture towards Hestia. Hestia hurriedly hid her chest and said in a small voice. Pervert. Yes, I am a pervert, now come here and fulfill your promise. You. Hestia avoided his gaze, but still slowly moved towards Lioro. She was so quick to jump at me before, yet now she hesitates. Women were indeed hard to understand, whether it be a goddess or mortal. After a dramatic process, Hestia finally arrived inside his arm's range. Lioro didn't stand on ceremony and tightly hugged Hestia, resting his chin on her head. He felt her breath hitting against his neck. Her soft and warm body pressed against him, and after some initial hesitation, Hestia too returned the hug. Lioro enjoyed the warm embrace, it felt calming. After 15 minutes Lioro finally let go, feeling sweaty. Hestia interlinked her fingers, a red hue clearly visible on her face. Seeing her reaction, Lioro raised his hands and grabbed her cheeks. Then he started stretching them. Stop. Wait. I'm your goddess. Hestia waved her arms around in protest, but Lioro ignored her and kept stretching her cheeks. After her cheeks were swollen up, he let go, making her face look funny. You. Bad child. Hestia raised her arms and started hitting Lioro's chest. Her attacks weren't working though. -0, -0, -0, -0, -0. He didn't even feel a thing. Suddenly Lioro stood up, making Hestia lose her target and fell face down on the bed. I am going to check out the dungeon. Wait. Bye. Waving his hand, Lioro ignored Hestia's voice and left the place. After exiting the abandoned church, Lioro made his way through the ruined place, following back the path Hestia took to bring him here. He arrived in a residential area. The designs of the building were similar to the ones he saw in Yggdrasil. After all, the technology of the two worlds wasn't that far apart. Walking up to a nearby street vendor, Lioro asked for directions. The middle-aged man looked at Lioro's white hair in curiosity before pointing towards the northwest direction. Lioro thanked the vendor and followed the path. Not long after he arrived in front of the guild. Seeing the line in front of the counter, Lioro waited for his turn. Even though he simply stood in place, his extraordinary appearance made several adventurers and guild employees couldn't help but give him several glances. After 5 minutes, Lioro's turn finally arrived. A long red-haired woman with werewolf ears greeted him with a professional smile. My name is Rose Finette. What service do you require, sir? I want to register as an adventurer. Lioro directly stated his purpose. Please wait. Rose nodded and then brought out a piece of paper. Please tell me your name and which familia you are from. Lioro, Hestia familia. Rose stopped for a moment and glanced at Lioro. Hestia familia. After skillfully filling up the form, Rose looked back at Lioro and said. Adventurer Lioro, you have now registered at the guild under Goddess Hestia's familia. If you have questions about the dungeon, then the guild will do its best to provide you assistance. Lioro nodded and said. I want information about how to traverse through the dungeon. The underground labyrinth was massive and it was extremely easy to get lost somewhere. It would be good to have some basic understanding before diving inside. Rose nodded and took Lioro to the side, towards the sitting area. Please wait here for a moment. Lioro sat down on the sofa and watched Rose walk towards the back room of the guild with steady steps. Having nothing to do, he moved his gaze and looked around the guild. There weren't any adventurers around during this time as most were busy in the dungeon. Suddenly a familiar face appeared in Lioro's vision. She, an elf with brown hair and green eyes, wearing a pair of glasses. An employee of the guild. Aina Tool. The one who guides Belle in the original series. Perhaps sensing his gaze, Aina turned her head and looked at him. Lioro looked back at her. For a moment they simply stared at each other. Aina was confused. Lioro had no intention of backing down, staring at her with unblinking eyes. Perhaps feeling creeped out, Aina was the first to retract her gaze, turning her face away from Lioro, as if trying to avoid him. Lioro smiled in satisfaction. On the side, Rose came back carrying several books and maps in her hand. Placing the things on the table, she sat down facing Lioro and said. Lioro, from now on you are my assigned adventurer. If you have any questions regarding the dungeon for the guild, then I will be the one answering them. Lioro nodded his head, saying he understood. Rose placed the book on the table and started opening them up, revealing several texts Lioro couldn't understand. Having traveled to 2 worlds and still being illiterate must deserve an award of some sort, no? Fortunately, it seems being illiterate was a common trait among most adventurers. Rose verbally explained to him some of the basics of the dungeon pathfinding. After an hour or two, Rose stopped and told Lioro to look at the guild's library for more detailed information. Having gotten a general idea of the situation, Lioro was about to get up and leave when Rose stopped him. Adventurer Lioro, please wait. With a calm expression on her face, Rose continued. I have checked with the records and you are the first member of Hestia Familia. Lioro looked at her. Is that a problem? What I meant was please be careful and don't under any circumference underestimate the dungeon. Rose continued in a serious voice. The death rate of newbie adventurers is the highest, even the highest ranked adventurers need to watch out when exploring new floors. So please prioritize your survival above all when inside the dungeon. Are you the type who is cold on the outside and warm on the inside? Lioro gave Rose a smile and said in a confident voice. I understand, Ms. Advisor, I will make sure to keep what you teach me in mind. That will be for the best. Rose gave Lioro a blank look. Seeing him leave, she picked up the books from the table and returned them back to the meat library. Having gotten a passage to enter the dungeon, Lioro wasted no time and appeared in front of the entrance. He saw multiple adventurers going in and coming out from a giant hole in the ground. As Lioro made his way towards the entrance, the nearby adventurers looked at him in confusion. The reason? Because he wasn't wearing anything equipment at all, no armor, no sword, and not even a staff used by mages. He was literally entering the dungeon in casual clothes which didn't even seem appropriate for extensive movements. Who is that dumb guy? Is he crazy? What the hell is wrong with him? A first-timer. Under the eyes of the onlookers, Lioro entered the dungeon, making them shake their heads and chant a silent prayer for him. Stepping on the uneven ground, Lioro entered the first floor of the dungeon. Looking around, he started exploring the place. But even after moving around for 5 minutes, he didn't find anything. Just when he was thinking about moving to the lower floors, a goblin appeared before him. Seeing that no one was around, Lioro pulled out a sword from his inventory and easily sliced the goblin in half. The goblin didn't even have time to scream before his body disappeared, leaving behind a small purple crystal. Lioro frowned, staring at the place where the dead goblin disappeared. Even after waiting for a few seconds, he didn't receive any notification for experience gained. Just to be sure, Lioro called up his panel and looked at the experience value. It hasn't changed at all. Killing monsters in dungeon doesn't give experience. That's a huge bummer. If he can't get experience from the dungeon, then what's the point of hunting? Moving his gaze, Lioro looked at the small purple crystal on the ground. Maybe. Squatting down, he grabbed the purple crystal. And as soon as he did, a familiar screen appeared before his eyes. Experience crystal detected. Would you like to absorb it? Lioro touched the hard surface of the crystal before agreeing in his mind. Experience gained. 10. The purple crystal in Lioro's hands turned to dust before disappearing. But Lioro didn't care, his gaze solely focused on the panel. I can get experience from monster crystals. If this is the case, then it might be easier to amass more experience by trading with adventurers instead. A quick thought passed through Lioro's mind. But he suppressed it for now and focused on the dungeon exploration at hand. 8 comments 0 vote. Chapter 21, Labyrinth. Dungeon 2nd floor. Lioro moved his sword, easily cutting several goblins in half, making blood spill out. But none of the blood reached him, all blocked by infinity. After struggling for a moment, the corpses of the goblins disappeared, leaving behind small purple crystals. Lioro looked at the light blue-colored wall in front of him. He felt the presence of a monster standing behind the wall. An ambush. Casually walking up to the wall, Lioro raised his leg and kicked it, causing cracks to form on it. The wall broke and fell on the monster behind it. Krieg. Looking at the bloodied kobold lying under the pile of rubble, Lioro raised his sword and pierced through his head, ending its misery. Putting the kobold's crystal inside his prop box, Lioro looked towards the depth of the labyrinth. The monsters spawning on the lower flowers were weak and unsatisfactory in numbers for him. So he decided to speed up. Lioro's figure flashed, rushing straight ahead, following the advice of his guild advisor. Not long after, he passed the light blue walls of the 4th floor and appeared in a light green structure. 5th floor. The back of a black shadow suddenly appeared in Lioro's vision. War Shadow. It was a monster Rose especially warned him about. After all, it was a famous newbie killer. However, she also told him to simply stay on the 1st floor for a month. Oh. Is someone here? He saw the War Shadow raising its claw and bringing it down on a fallen adventurer. But, Lioro was faster than it. His sword pierced the back of War Shadow's head. Then an incredible thing happened. War Shadow's body suddenly lit up in a holy flame, making it shriek in misery before disappearing completely. It's weak to holy damage. Due to the passive aura of courage, given by the Valkyrie class, Lioro's normal attacks contained holy damage. However, it wasn't explicitly visible before, since everything pretty much died under a single hit from him. Those who didn't were greeted by his friend Hollow Purple. Lioro lowered his gaze and looked at the person War Shadow was attacking. It was a bloodied scene. Lioro furrowed his brows. An Amazonian lay on the ground with her guts spilled out, blood constantly flowing from all over her body. The Amazonian's eyes turned weakly towards him, looking at him in hope. Her will to live amazed him. Though judging by her equipment, she seemed to be a newbie without a party. It's your lucky day. Lioro raised his hand towards her and casted Tier 5th healing spell. Major recover. A soothing green light extended from his palm and completely enveloped the Amazonian. Then an incredible scene took place. The Amazonian's spilled guts went back in place and her torn organs and skin reattached itself. The Amazonian stared in shock. Within moments she was healed back to full health. Feeling strength return to her body, raised her body and hurriedly looked towards Lioro. But all she saw was his diminishing back in the distance. After the little incident, Lioro cut down several ants, goblins, kobolds, and war shadows in his path before entering the next successive floors. He met some adventurer teams in the process, but Lioro ignored them and focused on reaching deeper floors. Seeing the open area filled with fog in front of him, Lioro knew he had arrived at the 10th floor. I will need to focus on the path or I might get lost. Stepping on the 10th floor, Lioro's gaze was attracted by an ogre carrying a large tree on his back. Getting hurt by that thing must hurt a lot. Lioro ran straight towards the ogre. The ogre was quick to detect him since he never bothered to hide himself. Roar. Along with a loud cry, the ogre raised the tree trunk and slammed it down at Lioro. The tree trunk stopped some distance away from Lioro, confusing the ogre. Jumping lightly, Lioro made a slash and cleanly separated the ogre's head from his shoulder, killing the monster. Walking up to the body of the ogre, Lioro pulled out its magic stone making it disappear. The magic stone of the ogre was larger than the one he got from monsters on the previous floors. Experience gained, 110. It also has more experience. Moving his legs again, Lioro made his way forward. I wonder how much Express Goliath will give. Goliath's magic crystal was massive, it must contain at least 1 million or 2 worth of experience no. Though Goliath was probably still there since Loki's familia hadn't started their next expedition yet. With thoughts moving through his mind, Lioro covered his sword in cursed energy and stabbed at the attacking ground dragon, the mini-boss of these floors. Due to the difference in their powers, instant death effect of the high-class cursed knight activated, directly killing the ground dragon in a single blow. After taking its crystal, Lioro continued his journey. As he was passing through the 12th floor, Lioro came across a familiar team. Takemikazuchi Familia. Their purple samurai-like clothes were quite easy to distinguish. While Lioro was looking at them in interest, the members of the Takemikazuchi Familia were staring at him in shock. A solo adventurer on the 12th floor. But they didn't remember any high-level adventurer with white hair. And even the sword princess wears armor when exploring the dungeon. But this person. Except for the sword in hand, he had nothing. What the hell was he going to eat? He didn't even have a carry bag. Kashima Aoka, captain of the Takemikazuchi Familia, narrowed his eyes. Was he robbed? Or is he making his way to the 18th floor? While Aoka was thinking, Makoto beside him suddenly shouted in a hurry. Watch out. Right after, a ball of flame rushed towards Lioro, enveloping him. There. Hellhound. Asuka pointed towards a black-colored monster hound, standing at the entrance of the 13th floor. Shit. Hurry up and help high. Before Aoka could finish, a sword flew out and lodged itself on the ground beside the stunned hellhound. Tiskai missed. They made it look so easy in the television before. With another sword in his hand, Lioro casually walked out of the flame, completely unhurt, stunning the members of the Takemikazuchi Familia. You. Lioro suddenly rushed towards the hellhound. The monster quickly opened its mouth to send another attack, but Lioro was faster than him. With a clean slice, the hellhound's head was separated from his body. Ignoring the dead hellhound, Lioro looked towards the panel which suddenly appeared. The first tier magic, Lesser Fireball, has been discovered. Would you like to learn it? It seems he can also learn magic from monsters. Yes. Memories of casting Lesser Fireball appeared in his mind. He finally managed to get his hand on the most common spell in fantasy. Taking out the magic crystal from the hellhound, Lioro glanced at the vigilant Takemikazuchi Familia before entering the middle floors. The floors from here on were filled with bedrock. The middle floors have more complex layouts, which include intertwining upper and lower tunnels. The light becomes darker and the air seems to be moist and vertical holes leading to the deeper floors appear randomly. Honestly, the 2-hour-long lecture given by his guild advisor Ms. Rose was not enough for him to navigate his way through the middle floors. It's not like the labyrinth was a straight way down, there were so many goddamn branches who knew where any of them will lead up. Should I go back? But he wanted Goliath's magic crystal. That thing at least should give 1 million express. After thinking for a moment, Lioro turned his head back and looked towards the Takemikazuchi Familia. Perhaps they can help him. If it doesn't work out, he'll simply jump inside a random hole to try his luck. Making up his mind, Lioro walked back towards the Takemikazuchi Familia. Captain, he's coming here. Aoka stared at the upcoming Lioro with vigilant eyes. Lioro ignored their gazes and said with a smile on his face. Hello friend, do you require a mage in your party? Mage. They couldn't help but look at the sword in his hand, its blade covered in the dead hellhound's blood. Yes, a mage. Lioro raised his hand making a small fire flow out. He's really a mage. Their eyes lit up, looking at Lioro with newfound respect. Aoka maintained his calmness and asked the real question. Why do you want to join our party? I don't know how to navigate through the middle floors. Lioro said, pointing at the 13th floor. Auka's expression hardened. Are you serious? Yes. Auka fell in thought. After a few seconds, he shook his head and said. I'm sorry we can't accept you in our party. Makoto glanced at Auka but remained silent, deciding to trust his judgment. Oh, I see. Lioro didn't try to convince them, since they disagreed, that was it. Turning around, Lioro started looking for a nice big hole to jump into. Asuka's eyes followed Lioro's back before saying to Auka. Captain. I don't think a mage would not know his to navigate through the middle floors. Auka directly said his reason. Captain. I understand you have your doubts but please trust me. See Captain. Asuka, I will not change my mind. Captain, he just jumped. What? Asuka said while pointing at a hole in the distance with a stunned look on her face. He just jumped down that hole. WTF. Members of Takemikazuchi Familia hurriedly ran towards the hole and looked down. But all they saw was darkness. This. Where does this lead? Auka asked with a confused look on his face. Captain. I don't know. God damn. Did they really just meet a directionally challenged mage? And just how the hell was he planning on surviving the fall? 10 comments 0 vote. Chapter 22. Summon Undead, first drop item. Inside a hole without any light, an illusory figure descended carefully, holding the shoulders of a white-haired boy. Lioro quietly made a small flame appear on his palm and raised his head. He was instantly greeted by the creepy smiling face of the wailing banshee. Lioro hurriedly put out the flame. WTF is wrong with you? He silently complained in his mind. The smile left the wailing banshee's face, replaced by sadness. Spell. Summon Undead 7th, Wailing Banshee. Since he didn't know any flying spells, he had to use the unconventional method of getting down. Lioro lit up another flame to look at his panel. Spell. Summon Undead 7th tier. Undead. Spectral, Wailing Banshee. MP cost. 69. Introduction. It appears as an emaciated woman draped in tattered, semi-transparent clothes. Her hollow, glowing eyes radiate sorrow and malice, while her mouth is eternally twisted in a silent scream. A chilling, ethereal mist surrounds her, distorting the air and exuding a dreadful aura of despair. A terrifying specter born of sorrow and malice. It emits a soul-piercing wail that casts an instant death roll, while those who resist suffer mental damage, including madness, fear, and cognitive decay. Shrouded in ethereal gloom, it has high-tier physical damage invulnerability, making it an unrelenting nightmare for pure physical warriors. Personal traits: deathly wail, ethereal form, soul-crushing aura. Undead traits: high-tier physical damage invulnerability, immunity to sleep, immunity to disease, energy drain, dark vision, death immunity, disease immunity, mind-affecting immunity, necromancy resistance, paralysis immunity, poisoning immunity, recovery by negative energy, double damage by fire, holy and light vulnerability v, good and holy consecrated areas, vulnerability 3. Lioro couldn't help but look up again. The wailing banshee smiled. Lioro put out the flame. Even among the undead, she was especially terrible to look at. The wailing banshee was sad. As Lioro didn't have dark vision, he couldn't tell how long they had to go down before reaching the depths. Just when Lioro was getting bored, his feet finally touched a wet surface. Water. Lioro tilted his head in confusion. He didn't remember there being any water surface around the middle floors. He lit up a flame to look at his surroundings. Lioro was taken aback. He seemed to be surrounded by water. There were small blocks of land spread out everywhere and he was standing on one of them. What floor is this? Lioro looked around in curiosity. Suddenly the wailing banshee behind him grabbed his shoulders and pulled him away. And the next moment 2 dragon-like heads popped out from the water, destroying the piece of land he was standing on. Roar. Along with the roar, a blue flame came rushing out from one of the dragon's mouth, enveloping the surroundings. Interestingly, the blue flame even burned on water. The 4th tier magic, Icy Flame, has been discovered. Spending a skill point he learned the spell. Spell. Icy Flame Breath 4th tier. MP. 25. Introduction. Spews out a breath of cold fire which causes burning and ice damage. Monster Rex. Amphisbena. Lioro thought in his mind, looking at the familiar appearance of the twin-headed dragon-type monster that he remembered seeing in the series. So I should be around the 27th floor. Amphisbena was a unique monster Rex who could move between floors. Roar. Letting out a loud cry, Amphisbena's left dragon mouth stared straight at the flying Lioro and released a dark pinkish fog towards him. The 4th tier magic, Magic Disruption Mist, has been discovered. Learn. Spell. Magic Disruption Mist 4th tier. MP. 30. Introduction. Spews out a pink mist from the mouth, disrupting and negating the magic of tier 4 and below. Lioro looked at the pink fog around him, blocked by infinity. Infinity creates an infinite distance between the target and himself. The reason the effect of the pink fog's magic disruption didn't work on it was because infinity was of a higher level than tier 4. Just when Lioro was thinking of summoning the skeleton dragon to try its strength, the wailing banshee suddenly placed him on the ground. Lioro looked at the wailing banshee in confusion as it floated towards the monster Rex. Wailing banshee stared at Amphisbena with her cursed eyes, then opened her mouth and let put a piercing cry straight towards the monster. The monster Rex also counterattacked with his mist breath. The two attacks collided. The sound waves from the attack shook the cave, the water surface bounced around like crazy, and several hidden monsters under the surface died directly. Unfortunately, the mist was no match against the attack of a tier 7 undead and was quickly overwhelmed. Monster Rex Amphisbena raised its other head with difficulty. It tried to open its dragon mouth and send a counter icy flame breath, but suddenly all of its movement stopped and the light in Amphisbena's eyes dimmed before disappearing. Instant death effect took place, showing its supremacy. Lioro silently looked at the falling corpse of the monster Rex. This was the problem with monsters and adventurers in Danmachi. Although they were strong, especially on the higher levels, whether it be adventurers or monsters. But almost none of them possess resistance to instant death type attacks, hell most of them don't even have any attribute resistance either. They just use their bodies to brute force their way forward. Although higher level monsters were still a little better since they had magic resistance, but still not to level of bypassing instant death effects. Even Lioro didn't have instant death immunity, except for the active skill which he got from Valkyrie class, but that only blocked a single attack. After that he was on his own. Maybe if he explored the deeper floors, monsters with crazy magic resistances will pop out, but for now he has yet to see one. Time countermeasures, space resistance, yin and yang resistance. All of these were things a higher tiered player in Yggdrasil needs to take in consideration before beginning any fight at that level. And unlike other races like undead and vampire which came with inbuilt immunity to things like instant death, humanoid types races didn't have any such advantages. Putting force in his leg, Lioro jumped and landed beside the dead disappearing body of the monster Rex. His eyes focused on the giant magic crystal and a piece of organ beside it. An item drop. Lioro curiously walked up to the liver-like organ. It seems it was his lucky day. I mean, just what were the chances of falling down a random hole and meeting a freaking monster Rex? Probably not that high. Putting the drop item inside his prop box, Lioro looked at the huge magic crystal with shining eyes. The wailing banshee silently floated in front of him, looking expectantly at him with her cursed eyes. Lioro gave her a thumbs up. Good job, well done. The creepy smile returned to the wailing banshee's face. Lioro ignored her and touched the magic crystal. Experience crystal detected, would you like to absorb it? Yes. Experience gained, 5 million. Lioro clenched his fist in excitement. The dungeon was the best place for him. Though. I can't even find my way through the 13th floor, much less the 27th. Lioro shook his head and cancelled the undead summon. Then his body disappeared from the spot and he appeared back inside a familiar alley. Coming out of the dark alley, Lioro raised his head and looked at the setting sun in the distance. Making his way towards the guild, he decided to spend more time in learning about the pathways before going back again. 12 comments 0 vote. Chapter 23. First night in Dungeon City. Rose and Lioro sat facing each other inside the guild's resting room. There were several books and maps lying on the table between them. Rose kept explaining about the dungeon exploration while Lioro kept writing down important points inside a small notebook in his hands. After some time, Rose couldn't help but stop and ask Lioro in a confused voice. Lioro, what are you going to do with the information about the middle floors? I was thinking of becoming a porter. Lioro lied with a straight face. A porter. Rose silently looked at Lioro's face. Was he scared by the dungeon monsters? It wasn't surprising that most adventurers suffer from a mental shock when they begin their adventure. In the end, it was Lioro's decision to do whatever he wanted, she had no say in it. But what is he writing down in that notebook? That was the main issue that concerned her. Lioro was clearly unable to read, so what the hell was he writing down? Don't tell me. Was it a lie? Can he actually read? Rose's eyes sharpened. A bad premonition hit her mind. Is he one of those adventurers? Many times the adventurers will fall in love with their advisors. After all, being an adventurer was a tiring task, both mentally and physically. That's why, due to various coincidences, the adventurers end up falling for their guild advisor, bringing nothing but pain to both parties. After all, being an adventurer was a risky job with a high casualty rate. Rose has seen many such cases over the years, she had personally rejected many adventurers before. But he's so young and we just met. Releasing a silent breath, she decided to directly ask him. Adventurer Lioro, what are you writing in there? Lioro stopped moving his pencil and looked at Rose. Seeing her slightly cold expression, he turned his notebook and showed it to her. Rose was taken aback. She saw a stream of unfamiliar characters written on the notebook. She looked at Lioro in confusion. It's the language of my hometown. Lioro turned the pages and showed the systematically written characters. Seeing the scene, Rose's face quickly changed from cold to embarrassment. She can make a face like that. Smiling lightly, Lioro said in a teasing voice. Were you thinking of something disrespectful? Miss Advisor. Let me tell you about the 16th floor. Coughing lightly, Rose diverted the topic. Lioro went along with her and didn't say anything, quietly noted down in his notebook. Just like that, a few hours passed before Rose rotated her shoulders in pain and said. Let's stop here for today. Okay. Rose was just about to get up and leave when Lioro suddenly placed a pouch of magic crystals on the table. Please exchange these for currency. Oh, okay. Rose blinked and picked up the pouch. Feeling its weight, she looked at Lioro. He got this many on his first day. Suppressing her curiosity, she walked to the exchange section. Lioro turned his gaze back towards his notes. Just as he started revising his notes, the sound of hurried footsteps caught his attention. It was Rose, who hurriedly made her way towards him. Looking at her solemn face, Lioro asked. What happened? Rose showed Lioro a magic crystal and asked with narrowed eyes. Lioro, why do you have a Hellhound's crystal? Oh. Lioro scratched his chin, then said with a straight face. I picked it up. For a moment Rose couldn't believe her ears. You, a level 1 adventurer, on your first day inside the dungeon, managed to miraculously pick up a Hellhound's magic crystal. It sounded absurd. Because it was absurd. But seeing Lioro's calm look, Rose actually felt in doubt. After all, it was impossible for a newbie to directly reach the 13th floor unless they belonged to a top familia. Is he saying the truth? Did a hellhound enter the lower floor? Perhaps a high-ranked adventurer saw the hellhound and killed it when passing by. And Lioro was lucky enough to pick up the left-behind magic crystal. Did you really pick up the magic crystal? Rose asked for confirmation. Of course. Rose took in a deep breath and then said in a solemn voice. Wait here, I'll report the news to the higher-ups. A 13th floor monster suddenly reaching the first floor was a great cause of concern. Rose went inside to report the matter. After that, she came back with another employee and Lioro was made to explain the situation in more detail. Lioro simply lied his way through. After all, there was no god around to call him out anyway. Finally, Lioro was given 200,000 valis after the conversion. Grabbing the pouch of money, Lioro left the guild and made his way back to the abandoned church. After passing through several areas and making sure to avoid the hostess of fertility, Lioro arrived at his destination. And yes, he'd like to stay away from a certain crazy goddess until he gained something like a mental attack immunity passive. Stepping inside the abandoned church, Lioro grabbed the wooden piece and pushed it to the side, revealing the passage leading to the underground. From the inside, a quick figure suddenly rushed towards him and hugged his waist. Lioro blinked and lowered his head, looking at Hestia. What took you so long? I was worried. Seeing her puffed cheeks, Lioro smiled and patted her head. I had something to do at the guild. How was your day? Hestia let go of Lioro's waist and crossed her arms in front of her chest, saying in a sarcastic tone. Well, thanks to a certain someone who doesn't listen to his goddess and runs away like an idiot, I had a terrible day. I was worried sick. Is that true? I wonder just what kind of bastard can do such a thing. To leave his goddess hanging like that. Tisk tisk, what a terrible guy. Lioro sighed and shook his head, lamenting the unreasonable behavior of some people. Seriously. Did someone like that really exist? The audacity of some people is just sickening. You. Hestia pointed her shaking finger at Lioro, not knowing what to say. Seeing his innocent expression, she gritted her teeth and shouted. Shameless. Absolutely shameless. I have a shameless chill. Come and give me a hug. Lioro cut Hestia off and raised his arms towards her, making a grabbing motion with his hands. Hestia quickly covered her chest and complained loudly. Just where did you learn that from? From a person who practices true gender equality. The face of a fellow transmigrator and his good-for-nothing goddess passed through Lioro's mind. Seeing Hestia hesitate, Lioro said plainly. Goddess, you promised. Fine. Fine. I understand. Hestia scratched her head before walking up to Liork and hugging him. It indeed feels warm and soft. Enjoying the feeling, he tightened his grip around Hestia's waist and hugged her tightly before letting go. Done already? Hestia asked, looking at Lioro with a slightly red face. Yes, that's enough for now. HMPH. Well, it's your loss anyway. Hestia made a HMPH sound and turned her head away. Yes, it's my loss. Lioro replied with a smile and sat down on the bed. Hestia walked up to the bed and sat beside him. How was the dungeon? I think it was okay. Killed a few monsters here and there. Ho ho. Hestia looked at him with narrowed eyes. So how much did you earn? Lioro raised the coin pouch. Hestia's eyes shone for a moment, then it was quickly replaced by worry. How many monsters did you kill? You weren't hurt, were you? I wonder how she would react if she knew I only transferred a tenth of the crystals to Valis. Suddenly Hestia's stomach churned, making a loud sound. Lioro turned towards her. Hestia blushed. You haven't had dinner. HMPH. I was too worried to eat because of a problematic child. Oh. Lioro opened up his inventory and took out 2 burgers, handing one to Hestia. And yes, he has indeed stored a lot of random stuff inside his inventory before world traveling. Hestia looked at the burger in her hand with a stunned expression. Did he just take it out of thin air? Seeing Lioro eating as if nothing happened, Hestia couldn't help but ask. You. Where were you hiding this? Lioro looked at her while chewing on the burger. Gulping down his food, he said. Prop box. Your skill. Hestia's eyes lit up. Lioro gave her a weird look. Didn't you look at them? After upgrading my status. There were simply too many. Hestia complained and bit down on the burger. Savoring the taste, her eyes lit up and she started gulping down on it like crazy. Lioro silently took out 2 more burgers and placed them beside her. Hestia smiled brightly and gave him a thumbs up. After they were done eating, Lioro and Hestia brushed their teeth and went to bed. You can take the bed, I'll sleep on the sofa. Hestia declared and turned towards the sofa. Lioro let out a yarn, then grabbed her head and threw her on the bed, making his way towards the sofa. Hestia tightly clenched her fists and got up from the bed, ready to hit someone. But seeing Lioro lying on the sofa with his eyes closed, she let out a snort before releasing her clenched fists. Falling back on the bed, Hestia looked at the familiar ceiling of their small room. This was the first time, after leaving Hephaestus's familia, she was sleeping inside the same room with another. Grinning widely, Hestia closed her eyes, tightly hugging the pillow on her side. My first child. Lioro's eyelids silently opened. Seeing her rolling around on the bed, he lightly shook his head before going to sleep. 11 comments, 0 vote. Pissed.